One of our listeners wants to know how to get over someone. So what do you think, Nikki? How would you advise this listener?
Well, you know what they say, the best way to get over a man is to get under another one.
I think mom guilt comes from the belief that we should be able to do everything and do it effortlessly and look beautiful while doing it. And it's just not reality. I think society places a lot of pressure on working moms that they have to do all the kid things but still be excellent at their job. And it's just too much. So I think a subtle shift in mindset to giving yourself grace and cutting yourself some slack can actually go a really long way.
I agree. I think a lot of mom guilt is...
Nikki, what is your biggest regret with your time on The Housewives?
I think my biggest regret is...
Welcome back to this week's episode of Scrubs to Stilettos. I'm Dr. Tiffany Moon.
And I'm Dr. Nicole Martin.
We are so excited to have you join us this week. We are doing something called Ask Me Anything. So the both of us posted on our Instagram stories that we would be doing this special episode and asked you to ask us a variety of questions. And a variety of questions you did ask because we got everything from fashion tips to beauty and skincare, parenting, housewives tea, medical things. I mean, you guys asked it all and we are here to serve. We'll be switching off and asking each other your submitted questions. So we're going to get into it right now.
If you guys asked us a question and we didn't get to it, we're going to probably do these episodes every now and again. And if you have a question for us, make sure you drop it below in the comments segment. And if you're not doing so already, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode.
And also be sure to follow us on Instagram because that's where we sometimes post the Ask Me Anything. Dr. Nicole Martin and at Tiffany Moon MD, as well as Scrubs to Stilettos show. Okay, let's do this week's weekly obsession. Nikki, what do you have?
Okay, so everybody knows that Tiff and I are big Hermes connoisseurs. And, you know, you're always looking for things to purchase to make your SA happy so that hopefully you get offered a bag. I recently purchased these little enamel earrings, which
I have those too.
So cute. You know, everyone buys those like click-clack bracelets as a way to kind of build up, but these are so cute. So I bought them in like a creamy white color, but they have them in like baby pink and baby blue and all sorts of color. And these were awesome. I used them a ton on my summer vacation because I thought they were really cute to accessorize with like a bikini. And they're not overly expensive, but they're very fun. I'm really enjoying these.
Yes.
I don't know what their name are officially on the website.
I have the exact same earrings. I have the baby pink ones.
I wanted the baby ones.
Okay, then we can match. They are not considered the fine jewelry of Hermes. So that's like a different section of the store. They are where the H-clicks and click-clack bracelets are, the enamel bracelets. I want to
$400.
I want to say $620 if I had to guess. But it's not the fine jewelry that is usually 4 to 5 digit range. These are 3 digits. So it will help to keep your SA happy, but not as happy as fine jewelry. And they're just really cute.
They're really cute. I think they're, you know, a fun little accessory. I like the fact that they come in a bunch of colors. We'll try to link them below in the show notes.
Yes, yes.
What about you, Tiff? What's your weekly obsession?
My weekly obsession are these Timeline gummies. In full disclosure, I have been sponsored by them in the past, but I continue to use their products because it's really good. I could go on, but the Timeline gummies are powered by MitoPure, which is an agent called urolithin A, which helps with a cellular process called mitophagy, which is when the mitochondria kind of clean things up. And I've been taking this for, almost a year, I want to say. First, the capsules, because the gummies came out later. And the gummies are easier for me to take, so I don't have to swallow a bunch of pills. But I feel like it gives me more energy. And this last winter, when everyone in my family was sick, I did not get sick. Now, is this the only reason why? I have no idea. But I continue to take it because I feel like it gives me more energy and health benefits. So
That's what I kind of love. You and I have had this conversation. Obviously, Tiffany and I have done some sponsored posts and whatnot in the past, but I think we both are very selective about the brands that we choose to work with. I've turned down countless brand deals because I don't stand behind the brand. I always try and use everything that I share. Like, for example, I love the Armor Colostrum. I actually brought it with me. It's
I
sitting
like
over
it
there.
too. Yes.
Because I feel like it helps me with my GI regularity. So I even bring it on vacation. I've been sponsored by them before, but I continue to use their products regularly. So I think it's safe to say that when Tiff and I talk about something, it's because we use it and we've tried it and we think it either, gives us more energy or whatnot. It's benefited us in some way.
Yes.
So I love that about you, Tiff.
Yes. Okay, we are going to kick it off. And of course, the first question is about housewives. So, Nikki, what is your biggest regret with your time on the housewives?
Oh, my biggest regret. Geez. I think my biggest regret is thinking that some of these people were like really friends, that were like, I letting my guard down and being like, okay, these are a group of friends or a group of women that really want to be friends. I think for some people it's a job and they kind of just go through the motions and it's not a genuine friendship. So I feel like sometimes I maybe let my guard down and thought or was more vulnerable than I should have been because the intentions weren't real. So I guess that's my biggest regret. Other than that, I feel like I did 3 seasons and for the most part, yeah, there was drama, but I'd like to say it was fairly benign.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have affected you in any real capacity long term.
Right.
Yeah.
How about you? Do you have a regret?
I do. My biggest regret with the Housewives is that I did everything the producers told me to do because I was a people pleaser and I didn't know that you could refuse. I didn't know that if my call sheet said 7 p.m. that I could saunter in at 8.
Oh,
I
know.
didn't know that if they wanted me to talk to another castmate about a contentious situation that I could be like, no, I don't want to do that. I did everything they told me to do, and that caused so much drama for me that I didn't even want to be involved in.
Yeah, I could see that. It is what it is. We are not professional reality TV stars, so it was a new experience for us. You're just trying to figure out how to like survive and navigate the waters, and like it's not always obvious what the right thing to do is.
Yeah.
All right. On to another topic. Did you work during medical school? And if so, how did you manage to balance it all?
I did work first and second year of medical school because I was on loans and I was like, if I can make $100 on a Friday night, like that was my spending money, for shopping or makeup or going out to eat because I felt so bad that I was taking out all these loans. In the grand scheme of things, like was making $100 on a Friday night like that important? Probably not. And if my daughter went to medical school, I would probably tell her like, don't work, but I worked. And I did it for the money. And it taught me a lot because I had to be very good at my study habits because I had a shift. I was a cocktail waitress at a bar. And I would usually take like a Friday night or a Saturday night shift once a week, unless we had a test coming up, and then I would not take it. But some nights I remember we always had our tests Friday morning. It was like an 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. test. And then afternoon you had it off. And so I would like take a nap in the afternoon and clean my room or whatever. And then that same Friday night after the test, I would go in and do like a 4 or 5 hour shift. And I mean, I would make like between, I don't know, $80 to $150 per shift. But that was like a lot of money for me back then.
Yeah,
that would sustain me for the whole, yes. That was basically how I had any spending money. But as soon as I started to do rotations in third year of medical school, I couldn't do that. So from the time I took step 1, which was the end of second year, I didn't take any more shifts after that.
I did not work. I was very fortunate. I went to undergrad on a full ride. So I didn't have any student loans from undergrad. Very hard to get scholarships to medical school. So what I did, since I didn't have any student loans, was I took out kind of a surplus of loans. So let's say tuition was $30,000 a year. I would take out $45,000 a year, and I would save those $15,000 as kind of like living expenses. And then I would use that to eat, to do my groceries, to pay whatever bills I had. Knowing that eventually I was going to have to pay that back. But it was really the only way that I felt like I was going to be able to balance it all, because it is hard, and you're in class all day. Then you basically have to go home and study and read and whatnot. And it's really hard to find the time. I don't think it's impossible. I think some people work and are able to do it. But I think if you're going to work, you really have to have really good study habits, because it accumulates quickly. And if you don't stay on top of it and you're not organized, it can snowball and you can kind of fall behind.
Yeah. That's a good point. And for me, my work was like also my socializing.
Yeah, because you had a fun job. It was a Friday night. You were at a bar.
Yes.
And it was once a week. I feel like if you're going to do something like that, like I have a guy friend that was a bouncer. He was like a big dude, and he was a bouncer at a club, and he would do something Friday and Saturdays. So I think if you're going to work, finding a job that doesn't require you to miss class or sacrifice, your academics, and that works with your schedule, and something that's just like once or twice a week, I think you could pull that off.
Yeah, the other thing that I did is I was a TA for anatomy and for cell biology, and that paid really well. I was a TA for the class, and then students would hire me privately, and the four of them, I think together, I would make like $60 an hour or something like that. And I was like, $60 an hour is a lot of money. So yeah, if you're good at teaching other people, you can likely be a TA for the grade under you, and that was all paid in cash. So like I didn't, pay taxes on it, whatever. I mean, I was making like, not enough to probably even make it worth it. Yeah. Okay. What is the best dating advice you have ever received?
When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I think, I don't know, I always wanted to like fix people, or like I always thought I could change people. And like you would see the red flags, right? And you were like, but I think if he likes me enough, he'll change, or whatever. People don't change, right? Like I think you just have to like accept people for who they are, and either that works for you or it doesn't. But you can't hold your breath expecting someone else to change or think that you are going to change them, right? Like I think you just have to believe people for who they are and accept them. And if it doesn't float your boat, then that's okay. They're not for you. But you can't go into a relationship expecting to change someone, because I think you'll only be disappointed when they don't change.
Yes. I hear that 100%.
What about you?
For me, I would say the best piece of advice I ever got was wait until times are bad before you marry a person. And what I mean by that is when times are good, when everyone has a job and everyone's healthy and everyone's getting along, like it's fine. It's hard to see the true colors of a person, but wait until someone's ill or there's a financial difficulty or just something goes wrong. And if you wait long enough, something will. You don't have to manufacture something to go wrong, because life happens. And that's when you see the true colors of a person. Do they cower and hide? Do they blame and shame? Or do they step up to the plate, take responsibility, jump into action, offer to help? You really see the true colors of a person when there's sort of something wrong or a crisis going on, because when everything's good, everything's good. Yeah.
I agree. I had postpartum anxiety, and this next question I think is for me. How did I navigate postpartum anxiety? This listener just had a baby and is currently going through it. Tiff, you also had some postpartum, right?
Yes, that I refuse to acknowledge or get treatment for. But yes, you go first.
So the postpartum period is an extremely overwhelming period, especially I think as a new mom, when you've never done this before. And for me, using my support system was huge. Asking for help and therapy were all like big things. We ended up hiring a baby nurse, which helped me get some sleep, which helped. Going to therapy and talking about my feelings helped, and really just relying on like Anthony and my mom and my support system, because you can feel really alone when you're with a newborn at home. So I think tapping into any sort of support system. And if you're not living next to your family, I was very lucky. We have family that's close by. There are postpartum support networks that you can reach out to online. Just finding kind of like your tribe, whatever that may be, whether it's friends, family, an online support system. I think that is huge, just to have people that you can vent to, people that you can depend on, that can lend a hand if things get tough, if you need a minute to like rest. I think that is a huge component to navigating that postpartum period.
Yeah, I agree. I had postpartum anxiety. I mean, I had prepartum anxiety because I had twins and I had been put on bed rest at 30 weeks. And so, I mean, I was anxious every day that my babies would be born early and that they would have to go to the NICU and have lifelong complications and all this stuff. And then finally they were born. I was able to keep them in until 37 weeks, which is amazing. I was the size of a beached whale. I started off at 105 pounds before I got pregnant. And I think somewhere around 36 weeks, I was like 175. And then I didn't weigh again after that. So I gained 70 pounds within like 8 months, which is crazy. There's another question after this about stretch marks. Yes, I have them. I would say that with postpartum anxiety and depression, one of the things that really not helped me, because I kind of realized that I had it like in retrospect, is I wish I wouldn't have been so hard on myself to like do everything and be so perfect. You know, I like sterilized my kids' baby bottles and nipples, and like was obsessive about washing the pump parts, and they always had to be matching and like these cute onesies and all this stuff. And it's like, no one cares about that stuff. Like I should have spent less time doing that and more time just like sleeping and actually being with my babies. But I had this like picture perfect image of what motherhood should look like. And I tried to attain it, and it, I don't know, I think I did myself a great disservice in trying to maintain this perfect image of motherhood when in fact, you know, it was all falling apart and I was running on 3 hours of sleep every night.
Well, I think that's why it's so important to talk about these things, right? And to speak to people that have also gone through it, because you're right. I think society paints this picture of like, you came home with this baby and it's supposed to be magical and amazing, and you're supposed to fall asleep in each other's arms and everything's supposed to be blissful. But that's rarely the case. You're exhausted. You can't sleep when the baby sleeps because you have 101 other things that you need to do, like clean all the pump parts and the bottles and wash clothes. And it's overwhelming. It's exhausting. It's isolating. And there is this like societal expectation of perfection. And when that's not met, then you feel like even worse about yourself. So I think, yeah, talking about those things, finding someone that's navigated it already is helpful.
Yeah. Let's go on to, this is the stretch marks. How did you prevent and or heal stretch marks from pregnancy? You didn't have any.
So funny enough, I have stretch marks on my hips, like on my outer hips and on my inner thighs, but those happened kind of during puberty, you know, and I was never a big girl that lost weight or anything. I was kind of always more or less the same size. But I guess just during puberty, those stretch marks developed, and they're very faint. They're like white colored. But I had them. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to get stretch marks for sure when I get pregnant, because I barely grew during puberty and I have them on my hips and on my inner thighs. So when I tell you that I was like obsessed with lubricating my belly, like I had oils, I had like 10 different products. And I was like, okay, one of these has to work. And I had them on my nightstand. I had them in the bathroom. You know, you get up to pee every couple hours when you're pregnant. It would be 3 a.m. And if I peed, I would like stop by the sink and I would lather myself up with ointments. And there is no scientific evidence, I think, for this. I think you're either going to get stretch marks or you don't. They say there's like a big genetic component to it. But I do think having hydrated skin helps maybe to prevent some of that skin tearing. So I think drinking a lot of water, maintaining hydration from the inside out, lubricating your skin with lots of emollients. And then I also wore like a belly band to kind of support the belly so there wasn't so much tension on that skin. And believe it or not, I don't have a single stretch mark on my stomach, even though I have stretch marks on my hips and thighs from puberty.
Yeah, I have stretch marks from pregnancy on my butt and all over my belly because I had twins. I mean, I don't know
In
how I would have
70,
prevented it.
you almost doubled your size in a matter of 9 months. That's a lot, like,
Yeah,
for a little frame.
yeah. I also did things. I put on this stuff called like bio oil. It's like
Yeah, I use
orange.
that one too,
Um,
orange.
and yeah, and then afterwards, when I had my stretch marks, at first they were purpley and now they're more white or skin colored. But I put on this stuff called like Medderma and I'd like rub it in. But I mean, once you have them, it's very difficult to get rid of them, but they don't really bother me that much. I mean, I don't really see them on a day-to-day basis. So
I
you
get it.
know,
I know it bothers people, but it's also like you know how amazing it is to create life? Like like think about how fascinating the human body is, right? And if like whatever, a couple stretch marks happened as a result of it, like it is what it is, right? Like just look at your kids and be like, "Oh my god, they're so amazing. I love them so much." And it
yeah. In the
kind of
grand scheme of
in the grand
things,
scheme of things, exactly.
for you to have beautiful, healthy children and you look down and see a few stretch marks, let it be a reminder that your body did amazing things.
Amazing things.
You
Yeah.
grew a whole ass human and pushed it out of your body.
And I do think
um,
with time they fade. Like you said, a lot of people's initially are very like hyperpigmented. They can be purple if you're fair skin or and then with time, I think they fade a little bit. And then you can always do like some laser treatments or whatnot to fade them even further. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, instead of focusing on that, if you can focus on how incredible the body is, maybe that can help make it a little bit more, acceptable, I guess, to people who are bothered by them.
exactly.
The next question is along the lines of babies and postpartum period. It's about having sex after a baby and how long does your sex drive stay low following the birth of a child?
Well, my kids are 10, so no, I'm just kidding.
It's like, I'm still not horny, thanks.
Yeah, it never goes back to what it was. No, I think it's just I don't know if it's about sex drive, but it's like, well, after you have kids, now you have kids, you have to take care of them. If you're still working, there's all these things to do. I remember when my kids were young, they would crawl into bed with us, like if it was thundering or they had a bad nightmare or whatever. So there's definitely no hanky panky going on when they're in the same bed as us. And I have two of them. So I don't know if it's about sex drive necessarily, but I for sure have less sex now than I did 10 years ago, sans children. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's when you think about it, right? Like you have to think about like physically and then like emotionally, mentally, right? Because I don't think it's just like sex drive specifically. So from a very medical standpoint, you're not supposed to have sex for 6 weeks following the delivery, whether it's vaginal or a cesarean. And then you're supposed to have a visit with your OB-GYN to clear you before doing any sort of sexual activity. Because if you have a vaginal birth, you might have had a tear and episiotomy. They need to make sure that that's healed well before you cause any more trauma to the area. So technically, I think 6 weeks is where they start to clear patients for sex. But after 6 weeks, you still may not have the sexual drive you had before the baby. And that may be because of hormone shifts. I know for me, when I was breastfeeding, when you're breastfeeding, your estrogen and your progesterone are kind of low. Your prolactin levels are high because that's how your body is stimulating your breast tissue to make milk. And that basically takes away a lot of your sex drive. It creates a lot of vaginal dryness. So for me, while I was breastfeeding, I noticed that maybe my sexual drive wasn't what it used to be. But then once I kind of weaned off of the breastfeeding, I felt like my hormone levels shifted back to normal. And I noticed an increase in my sex drive. So it could be just postpartum hormone changes. It could be due to hormone changes due to breastfeeding. And then, like you said, there's the mental load of being a mom, having a baby, being tired, having kids sleeping in your bed if you're co-sleeping. Like all of those things are obviously going to affect your libido. So I don't think that there is a designated time frame at which things go back to normal. And like Tiff said, they may never go back to normal, right? Like it's just now about embracing your new schedule, your new life. And I think carving out some time for intimacy.
Yes. But if, it hurts to have sex or like something is drastically different than what it was, or, you feel tearful or you're not feeling close with your partner, like there may be an exacerbating issue that you need to speak to your doctor or psychiatrist about. But I think for the most part, after a few months, it should be kind of veering back towards normality.
Yeah, I would say like 3 months, right? Because then like you've given your body the physical time it needs to heal. And by 3 months, I think people's hormones are shifting back to the like normal levels, so to speak. So I think after 3 months, you kind of start to feel more normal. But like Tiff said, yeah, if there's physical pain or you're just like emotionally not connected, go talk to your doctor because there could be something else going on.
Yes. Okay, next question. One of our listeners wants to know how to get over someone. They still have feelings and the feelings haven't changed. And it sounds like the relationship is over. So, what do you think, Nikki? How would you advise this
Hmm.
listener?
Well, you know what they say, the best way to get over a man is to get under another one. So, and in
um, that
Spanish, there
that is
is this.
partially true, at least momentarily.
Yes, like, is it going to be the permanent solution? No, but listen, a little distraction can go a long way. Maybe it doesn't have to be another man specifically, but I think distraction in general, shifting your focus away from that relationship to something else that brings you joy. Listen, if it just happens to be a hot guy that's your distraction and he brings you joy, more power to you. But maybe try finding a hobby, working out, something else that kind of fills your cup so that you're focused on that and not so much the relationship that isn't working. And I do believe that time heals all wounds, right? And eventually, like no matter how much this relationship mattered to you and how much you love this person, with time, those feelings will fade. And I think in the interim, until they do, just distract yourself with things that you enjoy.
Yes. And, during this period of breakup, it's a really good period actually for you to set a goal for something that you really wanted to do and didn't have time to. Because, when you're in a relationship, you're like Netflix and chilling and doing all that sort of stuff. So pour into yourself. Let's say you wanted to run a marathon. Now would be an excellent time to parse out your running schedule and, like book a marathon for, October or November and then put out your running schedule and that's something for you to work towards, and then you have something to show for it. Then you can say like, oh my god, I ran this marathon, or you
Yeah.
wanted to write a book, or you have a side hustle jewelry business. Take some pictures, get that up on Etsy. Like take this new time that you have and pour it into something that serves you instead of sitting around and moping and mourning the loss of that relationship, because it sounds like it's gone already.
Yeah, I agree. Kip, we talked about this before. Mom guilt. And one of our listeners has a lot of it, and she wants our advice on how to cope with mom guilt. I know we both have had this and suffered from it. I mean, I still have it and still deal with it from time to time. But what's your advice with mom guilt?
I think this is largely a mindset issue. I think mom guilt comes from the belief that we should be able to do everything and do it effortlessly and look beautiful while doing it. And it's just not reality. I think society places a lot of pressure on working moms that they have to do all the kid things, but still be excellent at their job. And it's just too much. So I think a subtle shift in mindset to giving yourself grace and cutting yourself some slack can actually go a really long way. And then kind of examine like where your mom guilt is stemming from. Like, is it your partner that's making you feel that way? Is it something your kid said? Is it something, your friend said? Maybe your friend stays home with their child, but you work. And so you're feeling some kind of way about that. Like kind of getting to the crux of where is this guilt coming from?
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of mom guilt is your perspective, right? Or your mindset. So for me, the way I try to deal with my mom guilt is I try to shift my perspective, right? Because a lot of my mom guilt comes from like, oh, maybe I missed an arts and crafts activity at school because I was doing a shift at the hospital. or because I'm like traveling for some, event or filming schedule or some work related activity. And I'll feel bad that I missed something because I had another obligation. And instead of letting that guilt consume me, I try to shift my mindset to, yeah, okay, I missed this activity, but I'm also setting an example for my child about, having a passion project or doing something that you love and creating like a life that is fulfilling for you. The other day, for example, I was a busy day. I picked him up from school and he was wanted to play a game and I couldn't at that moment in time. And then he looked at me and he was like, we haven't spent any time together today. And like, he kind of made me feel a little bad, right? And then I looked at him and I said, I understand. And I promise you that in 30 minutes, when I finish this thing, we'll spend some time together. And I said, but when you finished school, you went and you played soccer, right? And I was like, did you have fun? And he's like, yeah, of course. And I said, you like having things that are Grayson activities, right? Like you love to play soccer. And it's important for you to have your things that you love, like soccer, and that you dedicate time to it. Mommy has things that she loves too. And it's important for us all to have things that we enjoy. Daddy has racing cars. You have playing soccer. Mommy has going to the gym. And so I try to not like let that, I use it as a teaching moment where I'm like, Grayson has time for his things and Daddy has time for his things and Mommy has time for her things. And then as long as we all come together afterwards and we spend time together as a family, it's all about balance.
Yes, it is all about balance. And, when some moms are like, I'm going to go to every soccer practice, every ballet recital, every arts and crafts show, it can be a lot. If that's your prerogative and you want to do those things, by all means do them.
Yeah. Go for
But
it.
you don't have to do them in order to be a quote unquote good mom. You know what I mean? And I had this realization because I had to miss one of the girls' cheer competitions. My girls are in competitive cheer. And one weekend I was going to be speaking at a conference and I was like, I'm going to miss your cheer competition. Is that a big deal? Do you want me to try to cancel? Because the cheer competition schedule came out after I had already agreed to speak at a meeting, which came out like a year ago. And I was like, I'm going to miss it. And my girls were like, no, mommy, it's going to be fine. Daddy's going to be there. And you already went to the other 5. And they were like totally understanding about it.
Yeah.
And had I not sat them down to have a conversation, of course, they're 10, right? So they can actually, talk to me like this. Obviously, if your kid is very young, you really can't.
It's harder when they're 3.
Right. But I was like, oh, that's such a mature answer for them. They were like, no, mommy, you go. That's important for you. And we know that when you get back, we'll spend time together. And I was like, oh my gosh. And the other point that I wanted to make is that if you sort of don't do your own things anymore because you think like you have to be at all your kids' things, over time, that may end up with a little bit of resentment on your behalf. Or 5 or 10 years later, you look back and you like lost your hobbies. You don't garden, you didn't play tennis, you didn't go to the gym anymore. Maybe you gained a little bit of weight. And that resentment kind of can sneak up on you because you sacrificed all of your things in order to be a quote good mom. And it's not necessary is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree. And I think having those conversations also makes for really securely attached children. Like I love me a good parenting book. And I think so much of creating like confident, secure children is having these conversations, right? And not necessarily like over parenting or over being involved. Like it's okay for them to like do something by themselves. It's okay for them to like be a little bit uncomfortable, right? That's like when they grow and they evolve.
Yeah.
So I think, shifting perspective, being open to like these kind of uncomfortable conversations are huge.
Yes. Okay, we are at our last question. We started with Bravo and we are ending with Bravo. That is not how we planned it, but that's just how it is. This listener wants to know what Bravo shows we watch. You go first, Nikki.
So I was never a housewife watcher. Believe it or not, I went on to the Real Housewives of Miami without really being aware or understanding the dynamics, which I think was like a big mistake. I wish now in retrospect I would have known more about the franchise and the beasts, so to speak. But that's okay. I love to cook, and one of my favorite Bravo shows, and almost really the only Bravo show I watch, is Top Chef. Like I would love, if any of Bravo executives are listening, for them to do a like housewife Top Chef thing, like put a bunch of like the housewives in a house and like let us do cook-offs. I would sign up for that because I love.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I would never do that. You and Crystal could both do that.
Crystal and I talked about this. We were like, how fun would it be to do like a housewife cooking show?
Okay,
or like Chopped, you know? I love to cook. I love to be in the kitchen. So that's really like the only show that I have consistently watched like multiple seasons of. And I think Padma is just like so beautiful and elegant and like well spoken. She was such a great host.
Okay, I've never seen an episode of Top Chef. I would not know. I don't cook. I have no interest in being in the kitchen. So yeah, no. And I don't watch TV in general, but once in a while, when I'm on call at the hospital at night, I'll like binge a Netflix series or watch some documentaries or something because I have trouble sleeping when I'm on call, like even if there's no cases running. And especially if I have
waiting for the pager to go off and you're like on high alert kind of, you don't have to,
if any code goes off in the entire hospital, if any stat comes, and then if I have a case running in the OR and I have a resident or a CRNA in the OR, like I tend to not be able to sleep because I think like, oh, they're going to call me and need something, right?
Of course,
so that's when I watch most of my TV is in the hospital at night. I also did not watch any Housewives show before I signed on to do the Real Housewives of Dallas. Then after I agreed to do the show as homework, I watched the entire previous season of my show to like get intel on who was friends with who and like what the dynamic was. After being a housewife, I have not watched any of the shows except for the seasons of Housewives that my friends were on. So I watched, I think, all 3 seasons of Your Miami one, but I don't watch it like religiously. I watch it on like Peacock, and I kind of am folding laundry or like walking the dog or, you know, something. But until like a very pivoting part, like that one part when you like brought out your black Amex, I was like, you go girl.
Not my finest moment. Not my finest moment.
I was like, Centurion's gonna sponsor her after this.
That would be amazing. Centurion, hit me up.
Yes, Amex, call us. So I watched that, and then I watched all of Crystal's seasons of Beverly Hills in the same way.
Crystal did what, 3 seasons also, right?
I want to say yes.
3?
Yes. And so after she stopped and after you stopped, I haven't been watching. But last month, I was at a party in the OC and I met one of the OC housewives. And when I was doing promo for my book launch, I went on Tamra's podcast. It was just her because I think Teddy's going through some health issues right now. So I sort of know Tamra, and then I met Katie, who's the newest housewife of OC. So I think I'm going to watch this next upcoming season of OC because she and I are friends, and she's Asian. And so I feel like we have a little sisterhood there. But yeah, I am not a good TV watcher. I have a very short attention span because I have ADD, and it's basically long enough to watch a TikTok or an Instagram reel, but I cannot sit still for like 45 minutes.
Well, that's what they're saying now. They're saying that people are getting so accustomed, especially children, to like the constant influx and the change of like the feed on these social media apps. And it's creating a lot of attention deficit disorders because people now just, their brain is trained to constantly shift stimuli, which is terrible, really. Because I mean, these kids don't have to go to school and sit there for a lecture that's an hour long. And if they're so used to this constant change from social media, it's going to make it very challenging for them to excel in academics.
Yeah, so, I mean, for Lead Her Summit, I made all the talks. I told all the speakers, this is a TED Talk. You have like 10 to 15 minutes. I do not want a 45-minute keynote because the audience is going to get bored. They're going to zone out. They're going to be on their phones because I think our attention span is so short. Look at this dog,
which is why we try to kind of keep the episodes. Oh,
my dog is saying, he says, this episode is over. You need to take me outside to pee.
Well, talking about short attention spans, Tiff and I try to keep the episodes like 40 minutes just to not bore you guys. But if you think that they should be shorter, like 30 minutes, drop a comment below because we're always trying to figure out what's that sweet spot. Do we make them a little longer? Do we make them a little bit shorter? But I think we're kind of getting close to that 40-minute mark. So we will wrap up this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed today's Q&A. If you have any questions for the next episode, make sure you send us a message, follow us along on social media, or drop it in the comments below. And if you're not following along already, make sure you do that because that really helps us to grow the show. And it also makes sure that you never miss an episode.
Yes, and follow us on Instagram at Dr. Nicole Martin and Tiffany Moon MD because we will be posting another round of these questions for Ask Me Anything. So if you didn't get your question answered today or you have a follow-up question, you will have another chance to ask us in the future.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.